I used to train 5 to 6 days per week, thinking that was the only way I could get in shape, but I was so wrong. Not only was I making it harder for myself, but I was also leaving gains on the table. Today I want to tell you how I started training 3 days per week and changed absolutely everything. And be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Back in 2015, I started my career as a personal trainer wanting to be in top shape. And already I'd spent 3 years trying to get big. And I would go into the gym 3 times a week, 4 times per week, and I wouldn't see any progress. And so one day I read a book, told me I needed to eat more. So started taking it more seriously, started going to the gym 6 days per week and smashing the food. And what happened is I started gaining muscle really quickly. And the amount of volume that I was putting in the gym started to get extortionate. Got myself into a bodybuilding show, wanted to be in peak shape, and started realizing that guys there were so much bigger than me. What did I do? So like any 22-year-old, I started taking steroids. I was training 6 days per week, 2 hours a day. Steroids were helping me recover, and I was looking the best I ever have done in my life. Now the problem became when lockdown happened, and when I started looking at building a business that required more time. And the fact is that training 6 days per week, 2 hours a day was no longer able to fit in with my schedule. I was struggling with the gym, I was struggling to find time for the business, my relationships were suffering. I actually broke up with a girl during this time because of this problem that I had. And the fact is, I loved training, so I didn't think about it. You know, it worked for in my bodybuilding days, it helped me gain size, so why would I stop? Why would I bring myself down to 3 days per week? But the fact is, there were so many problems, like the lack of time. I was fatigued all the time. I was sore most days. I didn't have the recovery that I once had. I was only 29 years old and I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Why is my body breaking down like this? Why am I not able to build muscle like I used to? And I did think it was the steroids. I was like, well, I'm natural now. I don't have steroids in my system. So surely it must be that. But then I kept thinking, well, I built muscle before that. I've built strength after that. So why is it different now? I'll be real with you. I was scrolling through Instagram one day. I saw a guy called Kino Body, right? I'm sure some of you have heard of him and you might think whatever about him. But when I looked at his body and how in shape he was, how chiseled he was, his muscle definition, and when I read that he trained 3 days per week and sometimes 2 days per week, I honestly thought bullshit. There's no person in this world that can train 2 to 3 times per week and get in shape like that. That was my initial response. So I carried on living my life thinking, no, let's do 5 days per week. Let's just add more volume. Let's do an hour and a half a day rather than 1 hour. So that's what I did. I went to the gym, started pushing myself harder. And the problem is that I discovered is that no matter what I did, my recovery just wasn't there. I was always sore. I never felt good. My business was suffering. I was losing money. I started thinking, maybe the fitness industry isn't for me. Maybe I should just go and work another 9 to 5 job. But I couldn't do that. But then another post came up. And this time I read Kino Body's post and it mentioned Mike Mentzer. And I was like, right, who's this Mike Mentzer fella? Because clearly this guy's in shape. So there must be something that I am missing. You know, in my entire career as a personal trainer, I did not come across this guy called Mike. So naturally, I do my research. Google Mike Mentzer. I go, damn, right, typical bodybuilder. Find out he's in the same era as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we all know Arnold. We all know Arnold. He is the king of bodybuilding back in the golden era. But the thing that made it crazy for me is that this man was as impressively big as Arnold. And he said that he trained 3 days per week, 45 minutes. And I'm thinking, how can you train 3 days per week for 45 minutes and Arnold Schwarzenegger is training 6 days per week, 2 hours a day at least, and be almost as impressive as him in terms of size and physique? And arguably, some people think he looks better than Arnold. So here I am with my mind totally blown thinking, right, well, if it works for them, surely it can work for me. So I started to think about it. It's like, right, in university when I studied sports science, I learned something called supercompensation. And what supercompensation is that when you are training, you need to rest. You can't just train all the time. In the gym, your body's breaking down, and when you rest, your body is then rebuilding. Now, in my head, I thought if I train 5 days per week, then it still gives me rest in between, as long as I'm training chest one day, back one day, and legs one day. But that's not how it works, because we have this thing called your central nervous system, and you need to make sure your CNS is firing in order to be able to increase your workload over time. Now, the problem with training 5-6 days a week like I was doing without the help of steroids and without the help of being smart around my training was that I was always finding myself going down with my recovery rather than going up. And this happens to people. This can happen all the time. it can also increase cortisol and stress and make you feel awful all the time, and you don't know what it is. It's stress related, and I didn't want that stress anymore. I wasn't finding my performance at work going up, it was going backwards. I was getting negative performance. My relationships were suffering. I started to hate training. I was like, right, I'm not looking forward to going for the 5th time this week, but I'm a personal trainer. I've got to show that you just got to push through. You got to have willpower, and you just got to have discipline and just get it done. So I decided, right, let's give this a go, because there's so many things in my life right now that are really struggling. I need to get a handle on my time. I need better time management. And I had all those questions. But what if I lose muscle? What if I go back to how I was? What if this doesn't work? What if I get called lanky, beanpole, like I used to? What if my business needs me to deliver, but I can't because I haven't got the energy, or maybe my body isn't developing the way I want it to be, and as a personal trainer I don't look as good as I need to compared to other personal trainers out there? Will my clients suddenly leave me because I don't look the part? All these things came through my head, and I was thinking, Nick, shut up. These are all external things. You can fix these things if you go the wrong way. You can always course correct backwards. So I gave myself 30 days to try this training program. So what did I notice initially? The first 2 weeks, I actually lost muscle size. Now, this was not putting me in the best position, and I'm sure if you're listening to this right now, you're thinking, great, okay, so 3 times per week, it's bullshit. But listen, right? Initially, the muscle glycogen that I had in my muscles started to go, because when you go down from 6 days per week down to 3 times per week, you're halving the amount of volume on the muscle. There's not as much need for muscle glycogen to be retained because your volume's decreased. Now, after 2 weeks, what happened is I started to notice my strength increased. Now, my strength had never been that good until that point. Like, I was always someone that struggled with getting strong. Like, I've been an ectomorph / meso all my life. I've struggled to gain muscle. And when it came to training 3 times per week, after 2 weeks, I noticed my strength increased. My muscles started to develop to be harder, more of a gymnast style build. And this was the kind of body that I wanted. I wanted that more athletic, strong and defined build. I didn't want this big, bulky bodybuilding look, and it worked for me. And on top of that, I also noticed that I was training much less. I was training 45 minutes 3 times per week. I had more time to devote to my business. My business started to grow. More clients would come to me. They would ask for programs, how they did it. I then had clients then go ahead and use my 3-day-a-week program and get fantastic results. But the greatest thing about this was I had more time for myself and more time for my relationships. My social life started to pick up again, because as someone that has been a business owner for so long, and as a personal trainer, you work the most antisocial hours. I finally had time to do the things I want to do with the people I want to do with. And another great benefit as well is that I knew how important cardio was for your health, but also it can help with fat loss. So I also was able to put cardio on the days that I wasn't training. So what I mean by that is, if I'm training 3 days per week, 1 or 2 days on my rest days, I'd go for a light walk or light jog and increase the amount of fat I was burning over time. This meant that I was getting leaner, I was getting stronger, I was getting more defined in half the time. And I was like, I felt like I'd finally cracked the code. It sounds cheesy, but I actually felt like I'd cracked the actual code. Now, that being said, there are some tips that you need to take away if you're going to do a 3 times a week program, because it will not work unless you follow these tips. First of all, you need to focus on intensity and good form. You must focus on increasing the amount of weight that you're lifting over time whilst maintaining really good form and tension. If you go in there thinking, I'm just going to train 2 or 3 sets and I'm going to push a moderate weight and never increase my load, you're never going to see change. You need to focus on having intensity in your sessions in order to make it work. Secondly, I found that training each muscle group twice per week was where you need to be to optimize the muscle growth per muscle group. Now, this means if you're training 3 times per week, it doesn't mean you have to train chest 3 times a week. It means you have to train chest at least twice per week. This can be bench on one day, chest flies another day, and it works the same. The same is true for legs. You don't have to train legs every session. However, I did find doing squats one day, deadlifts another day, and Bulgarian split squats on a 3rd session would optimize the legs as well, meaning you can train legs a little bit less throughout the week, but spread them out throughout the sessions. Therefore, what I recommend you do is you train 3 full body sessions per week. And you can split this however you want. Now, personally, I love doing calisthenics. I love bodyweight training. I love bodybuilding training, and I love a bit of powerlifting training. So the way I structured my 3-day-a-week program was I would have some calisthenics and some powerlifting and some bodybuilding in each session. And this meant that I could train my bodyweight movements, I could train my bodybuilding movements, and I could increase my strength in the key 3 lifts, which we talk about: squats, bench, and deadlifts. And if you want an example program, I'm going to put one in the comments below. You're welcome to take it and have a look yourself. But if you found this useful, I would really like to know in the comments, because I want to make more content for you guys to help you get in the best shape possible, whilst also improving your lives, improving your business, improving the amount of time you have for social life. I don't want you to think that you have to go and train 6 days per week and push yourself all the bloody time to get in shape. I want to help you train optimally. If you found this useful, drop us a comment below and let us know. Until next Sunday.